strong and growing perception in the country that something is wrong, all the way through from policing on the streets, right through the courts, and all the way to the prison system. For us, one of the good things has been the number of new people that we've managed to attract to the campaign, a couple of whom will be joining us, or are joining us today. There is certainly rising public anger out there in the country. As you can see, the number of protests that are taking place outside migrant hotels up and down the country is indeed evidence of that. And increasingly, the migrant hotel issue has moved really from one of fairness, why on earth have people been given all these things, to very much about the safety of women and children. For all the government's talk about protecting children, which they claim is the sole purpose of the Online Safety Act, our criticisms of that and the impositions on free speech that have been imposed just in the first week of its operation have led to them sinking to the depths. I would suggest that comparisons that somehow we're siding with Jimmy Savile were wholly inappropriate at every way. But what we will today be talking about is a cover-up. A cover-up that in many ways is reminiscent of what happened after the Southport killings last year. I will say to all broadcasters when we get to this segment of today's press conference, nothing we say will in any way be in contempt of court. And indeed, to quote Jonathan Hall KC, who is the independent reviewer of terrorism legislation, he said in the wake of Southport that we should spell out the basic and sober facts. And that's exactly what we will do today. But before we get to that segment, I want to introduce you to some people that have joined us and are joining our campaign. Rupert Matthews is the Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicestershire. Formerly, he served in the European Parliament as a member there. He's twice been elected as a Conservative, but today he comes across to us as our first Police and Crime Commissioner. Rupert.
Thank you.
And welcome on board.
Thank you. Well, morning everyone. Now, I've known Nigel off and on for several years, so I asked him what he wanted me to say to you all today. Great man that he is, he said, you can say anything you like, he said, so long as you tell them why you're joining Reform. So here goes. I joined the Conservative Party in 1984, that's over 40 years ago. I joined a Conservative Party that was putting Britain first, that put the British people first, and that championed freedom. The economic decline of the 1970s was overturned, the Falklands were liberated. But now our great country faces new challenges and new dangers. As Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicestershire and Rutland, I daily face the fight against crime. I see ordinary, hard-working people burgled, robbed and mugged. Shoplifting is getting out of control. Antisocial behaviour is turning too many of our town centres into an apocalyptic wasteland of lawless Britain. Now, I've got nothing but admiration for our police officers and PCSOs. They're doing a fantastic job, but they're fighting crime with one hand tied behind their back. The courts impose sentences that too often are derisory. And Labour's early release scheme means that crooks are back out after serving a fraction of their time in prison. And that's all because our prisons are full. They're full of foreign criminals who should be deported the day they are convicted, not kept here at the expense of British taxpayers. It's no wonder that criminals do not fear the justice system, no wonder that the law-abiding have almost given up on reporting crimes. And our wonderful police officers are let down even by their own senior commanders. The National Police Chiefs Council recently sponsored the abomination that is the Police Race Action Plan. That concluded that people should be treated differently depending on which ethnic group they came from. That is a disgrace and the very epitome of two-tier policing. We need to cut the dark heart of wokeness out of our criminal justice system and allow the police and courts to get back to what they're supposed to be doing, which is keeping our communities safe. It's not just crime and policing where the old regime is betraying the British people. Immigration, free speech, net zero, the Mauritius deal, a government facing bankruptcy, all of this foisted on the British people without their consent by woke tyrants convinced that they know best for the rest of us. Governments of all parties have played their role in the decline of Britain. It's almost as if they've looked at countries like Lebanon and Libya, the policies that have led to them becoming failed states, and thought, that looks good, let's try that here in Britain. Now, Kemi Badenoch's recent shadow cabinet reshuffle was her chance to set the Conservative Party course for the future, to put together a dynamic team to make the changes that this country needs. Instead, she brought back a man who can't even commit to leaving the European Court of Human Rights. Her reshuffle reminded me of nothing so much as when Edward Heath turned his back on Selsdon Man, a cowardly capitulation to establishment orthodoxies that led Britain to disaster. But there is a choice. There's a better choice, and he sat right over there. Now, I was in the European Parliament with Nigel. I saw the daily abuse, sneering and contempt that was heaped on him by the great and the good. But Nigel didn't cave in. He had a vision of Britain free of the European Union, and against all the odds, he achieved that. Today, he has a clear vision of Britain free of the tired, old regime, and he has got the courage to deliver that vision. The self-serving, self-entitled liberal elite who have let our country down time after time after time are now on notice. Their day is almost done. Be they Conservative or Labour governments, everyone knows our politicians have failed us all. They have let this country down. They have let the British people down. Enough. Now it is time for reform. Thank you.
Richard, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I did say he was Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicestershire. I forgot Rutland. My apologies to Rutland, who often feel left out. Now, I'm now going to introduce you to Vanessa Frake, former Governor of HMP Wormwood Scrubs, Sunday Times best-selling author. But actually, I'm not going to do the introduction. Colin Sutton will do the introduction. Colin was with us last week and announced he was setting up a task force, a law and order task force, and I'll let him do the introduction.
Thank you, Nigel. Thank you. Good morning again. 7 short days since I was last here and introduced. I've been astounded by the breadth and depth of support that I've had coming from quite unexpected sources, and it just shows me how much there is behind this party, behind this movement, really. It comes today for me to introduce the first of the task force members. Many of those messages of support I've had are from people, good people, who want to help, and I'm sure that some of those will be being brought on board in the coming days and weeks. But the first of those is sitting here to my left. Now, when we govern, and we will, we'll fix the police. We will. But that will be in vain if we don't fix the rest of the criminal justice system. And another important strand of that system is prisons. Prisons have had, you know, like everything else, 14 years of underinvestment. We don't have enough prison space now. What's the Labour answer to it? Let's let thieves and robbers and domestic abusers out after they've served 30% or 40% or 20%, whatever percentage it is this week of their sentence, to create space. That will not be the reform way. We can make a start by making sure that the 10,000 plus foreign criminals who are clogging our prisons are deported. And what about the ECHR, you say? That noise you hear is human rights lawyers thumbing through Bentley catalogues. They're going to have to take up shipping or wills and trusts because the ECHR will be no more. That is our policy, and that won't get in the way of making this space with these people. Vanessa, welcome.
Thank you.
Vanessa was 27 years in the prison service, retired as a governor,
Yes.
got an MBE for your services to the prison service, and more importantly, has shared a stage with me on more than one occasion at true crime conferences and so forth. And I cannot say how delighted I am. Vanessa gives us not only the experience of her time in the prison service, but as Nigel said, she's an author, she has a great knowledge of criminology, of crime, how crime works, and I'm sure that her contribution to the task force will be brilliant, and we'll have some fun doing it as well, like we always do, Vanessa, won't we? Thank you. We're going to show a video now.
My name's Vanessa Farage. I am a former prison governor and author. I started my career in the prison service in 1986 as an officer and worked my way up to governor. I worked at various prisons around London and finished my career off in 2013 at HMP Wormwood Scrubs. For decades I managed violent offenders, gang leaders and murderers. Our prisons are at crisis point. We have reached the situation where consistently governments have bled our prisons dry. If you are soft on crime, what happens is those prisoners are released into our communities, and our communities bear the brunt of criminality. Consistently, successive governments from Labour and the Tories have failed our prison system. They have failed to invest. They have cut corners at every single level. They have released untold prisoners, going back to when Jack Straw was Home Secretary under Tony Blair. I'd like to see Britain that we can be proud of, and I would like to see Nigel Farage lead that campaign. Britain is lawless. Britain needs reform. Good morning, everybody. As the video says, my name is Vanessa Farage. I am a retired prison governor. I was the governor of HMP Wormwood Scrubs for 4 years, and I served in the prison service for 27 years. I'm here today to announce that I am officially joining Reform UK and will work with Colin Sutton and others on Reforms UK's Law and Order Task Force. I'm not a traditional politician. I've never been a member of any political party. I've actually had a real job working within our prison service, ensuring criminals are locked up, the public are kept safe, and prison officers are protected. When I started at Wormwood Scrubs, I was assigned the task of cleaning up D-Wing. D-Wing was the lifer wing. It was the worst of the worst, where the lifers spent their time. It was dirty, run down, and had major drug issues. My attitude to the task was assertive and no nonsense. That's the approach that I will take for my role within Reform UK. In 1986, I joined the prison service. I was proud of my job, and I was proud of my service, and I still am. But now, seemingly, everything we hear is negative about the entire justice system. Successive governments, Conservative and Labour, have driven the prison service to its knees through lack of investment, support, and an unwillingness to allow people who know what they are doing to get the job done. The public's confidence in our prison and justice system has been entirely lost. Prison escapes risen by 30% in the last year. Attacks on prison officers are at record highs. There were more than 10,500 assaults on prison staff in the last year alone. Incidents of drug fines in our prisons risen by 25%. Incidents of weapons have risen by 12%. Incidents of mobile phone fines have increased by 14%. Our prisons are in a crisis caused by Labour and the Conservatives. What have the solutions been? They've let 10,000 prisoners out of jail early. To let criminals out of jail before they even serve their full sentence is a disgrace. They have ignored the concerns of the police, probation, prison officers and the public. whose communities will bear the brunt of criminality. Establishment politicians have pretended as if Britain isn't lawless. We all know it is. We see it on a daily basis, rampant criminality on the streets, repeat offenders facing little consequences, and our towns and cities become increasingly unsafe. Successive governments have appeased prisoners such as Axel Rudakabana, the Southport killer, Hashim Abedi, the Manchester Arena bomber, allowing them the freedom to cook their own meals. Why should dangerous murderers and terrorists have this right? A right that they can then use to attack prison officers by throwing hot cooking oil over them and creating improvised blades to stab them with. It's abominable. I would like to see a government that grabs the bull by the horns, and I believe Reform UK, with Nigel Farage as Prime Minister, would be that government. He is the leader this country needs to make Britain a safer and more secure place to live. Let's back the prison service and support them. I want prison officers to be able to do their job without fear of being attacked, and for their families to know that they will get home safe every day. I want a tougher prison regime for prisoners who will never be rehabilitated. I look at the supermax prisons in America, and I'd like to see a version of that replicated in Britain. And for the prisoners who won't serve life sentences, well, let's try and make a real effort at rehabilitation and release them back into the communities to be more useful members of society upon that release. That will be my focus on our task force. That is my background and experience, and it is only right that I look to improve the prison service and ensures it runs as I ran my prison when I was a governor. Reform UK, I believe, can help make that a reality and restore law and order to Britain. Britain is lawless, and Britain and our justice system needs reform, and I'm very much looking forward to being a part of it. Thank you.
Excellent, and welcome. Well, Vanessa, thank you, and it is indeed a very, very sorry tale what is going on in our prisons. Now, I've been wondering for over a year whether the truth was being withheld from the British public. It is not, as I've stated already, in any way at all a contempt of court for the British public to know the identity of those who allegedly have committed serious crimes. I felt that in the wake of the Southport attacks, and I feel that ever more strongly today. You would have seen a story that broke in the Mail on Sunday concerning events in Warwickshire over the course of the last few days. And we're joined today by Councillor George Finch. He's the leader of Warwickshire County Council, who is going to share with us the sorry tale. George.
Good morning, all. This is a story that shocked us all. On the 26th of July, Ahmed Malakil was arrested and then charged later on the 27th of July. I was made aware of this incident on Tuesday, July 29th. I will be looking into why I wasn't informed immediately. The following day, I contacted the council CEO to inform her that I wished to speak to Warwickshire Police to urge them to release the immigration status of the criminal. The thing is, I was begging for this to be released, screaming, phoning, asking it to be released. I sent an email, afternoon, Monica, the CEO of Warwickshire County Council. After hearing the news and reading your email regarding the 12-year-old girl who was raped by an asylum seeker who lives in a HMO in Stockingford in Nuneaton, my hometown, I think transparency is needed, and the people of Nuneaton and the wider Warwickshire area have a right to know who the man is and his background. How can we work with Warwickshire Police to ask them to release the information regarding the details of this man? This is a deep-rooted issue regarding HMOs housing illegal immigrants that are affecting our communities. So I urge you to work with me as Warwickshire County Council leader to ensure Warwickshire Police can release the information to the public in the appropriate manner. I then later phoned the Police and Crime Commissioner for Warwickshire, who informed me that he was on holiday and that he doesn't know much about the case. I was sickened by those comments. Anyone can pick up a phone and speak to me, speak to the CEO, speak to the Chief Constable. And then on Saturday the 2nd of August, I was informed by the CEO of Warwickshire County Council that a second man, Mohammed Kabar, has been arrested and charged with kidnap, strangulation and aiding and abetting the rape of a girl under the age of 13. It was at that point that I wrote a letter to the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper and the Chief Constable of Warwickshire Police Alex Franklin Smith, in which I called for all immediate release of the immigration status of the two men. I've urged them to work with me as leader of Warwickshire County Council, and I will be working with all the borough councils and the district councils within Warwickshire to fight against these HMOs that are being put up to house illegal immigrants, and the hotels are in Warwick District Council. And I want to say to all reform councillors and all councillors in the country that this has to stop. Our communities are at a breaking point, and that's why we need reform to change things. We're the last line of defence against the blob, the cover-ups of the councils, and we have to fight every step of the way against this blob, and this is what we're doing on Warwickshire County Council. It has to stop. A 13-year-old girl has been raped by 2 asylum seekers, and I was told that if I released this, I would be in contempt of court, and that I cannot release this due to this phrase, community cohesion. That's the problem. They're trying to cover up the minority, the people that are coming over on boats illegally, and the people of Nuneaton are hurt. They've had enough, and that's why I'm urging all council leaders from all parties to join me in campaigning to stop the housing of illegal immigrants in HMOs with Serco and the illegal immigrants in hotels. That's all I've got to say on this matter today. So thank you, and I'll pass back on to Nigel.
George, thank you very much indeed, and well done for exposing the truth. Threatened, basically threatened, and told the public do not deserve to know the truth. It is absolutely disgraceful. In fact, it has shades of the same mentality at local level that led to Rotherham and the huge shock, not just we as a country, but the international community, who could not believe we'd sunk to those depths. Turning a blind eye, not telling the British public the truth. But when it comes to protecting children, we're not hiding behind a flawed piece of legislation. We genuinely intend to protect, in particular, women and children. And I made this point 2 weeks ago, but I'll make it again today. None of these young, unidentified males that are coming into this country should be free to roam the streets. They should be detained ahead of them being deported. And that is absolutely what we stand for as a party, and we mean it. And we'll do that to protect the British people. We have simply had enough. Okay, moving on. I have a list of questions. Let us start with Henry Zeffman.